So New Icon and I decided we're going to do a series on an old, out of print now, board game called Hybrid from Rackham. Had one expansion, Nemesis. It's quite an awesome game. I mean, it was hampered by a really poorly translated rulebook. Lots of using like really pages and pages of rules to describe what turned out to be rather actual simple concepts. But yeah, once you decipher the rules and get it all worked out, it's actually a fun little game. It's been compared to Space Hulk quite often, and yeah, it does actually run a little bit like Space Hulk. It's fantasy setting there. So I'm just going to do a kind of a little walkthrough of the first mission, sort of how to play, and give you a general idea. If you can track the game down, I think it's worth picking up. I'll also, just in the description box below, I'll put some links to some sort of some rules references that just make it a hell of a lot easier to work out what's actually going on. So yeah, so this is just the first scenario in the game, Return to Glasnar. And so basically the scenarios just give you an overview. Like in this scenario, it's just the two forces just try and kill each other. Tells you how many ranks worth of figures you can have and a maximum amount of figures. This one has a special feature in that there's 4 event counters on the map. And one of them is actually a trap, and I'll get to that later. And yeah, there's no other special rules, and then it just gives you a layout to show you where to place all the doors and corridors and event counters. And that's it all set up there. I haven't put the event counters down, so these are the event counters here. They're have a little question mark on one side, and then underneath you find out whether it's an event like that one or a trap like that one, showing here the explosion. So I'll just shuffle those up and put 4 down now. Okay, so I've got the board completely set up now. I've got the 4 event tokens on there. One of them's randomly a trap, don't know which one it is. There's also 2 shared decks in the game. That's the event deck, which basically when we activate one of those event counters, you draw a card from that event deck there. And there's also the action deck, so I'll get onto those in a moment, but so both of those are just placed next to the board. I just want to add, the first of many weird little rule things in this game is hidden among this event deck are actually, I think, 8 or so cards that are actually equipment that your forces can equip during force creation, which we'll get to in a moment. I don't know why, but they've included them in the event deck, but basically at the start of the game you buy the ones you want and the rest aren't used, so it seems weird. I figure they should have actually just used a different card backing and called them equipment. I know it makes sense, but yeah, they didn't. So I've just noticed a lot of people miss that one and are confused about where are these equipment cards it talks about. So yeah, they're part of the event deck, so yeah, I usually just pull them out. Okay, so next thing is both players basically create the forces they're going to use in the game. So there's 2 sides. They're based on the confrontation faction. So one side's the Griffin, so I'll work with those first, and then we'll swap over to the other ones, the Scorpion, and we'll talk about those shortly. So each figure, or each type of figure in the game, is represented by a card. So I'll just explain sort of quickly what the cards. Excuse the quick movement there. So the most important value on the card is this one right here, the 3 there. That's called the natural value. So basically that pretty much is what the figure needs to roll under on a d10 for everything, like attacking, defending, etc. Then around the outside you've got modes. So see it on the top left, it has attack mode of 3, top right defense mode of 4, bottom left it's a ranged attack of 4, and the bottom right movement mode of 4. I'll get onto the modes shortly because they're actually quite complex, but they're actually quite neat as well. So then further down you get the movement, how far it can move. This guy's 7 squares. It says class, but it's just basically what faction and what his rank is. So this is a rank 1, he's of the Griffin faction. Then the equipment he carries, so he has a sword, which adds +1 to his offensive combat, pistols, which add +2 in his firing, and then aptitudes are like special abilities, and he has Conviction, which I can't remember what it does. I'll check that during the game, I'm sure. So just for this game, I'm just going to go with a really basic army choice of, because I've only got 5 points to work with. I'm just going to take these 3 basically vanilla troops, the Purifiers. They're worth 1 point each. And I'll also take this fella here. He's Venerable Ambrosius. He has sort of auras which are kind of like spell effects, and so I want to get me some of those. And he's 2 ranks, so that's my entire 5 ranks. I don't have enough to buy any ranks of equipment. Which brings me to another thing. Even though on these equipment, see, hang on, where's the camera? How it says there, oh, that's a rank 1. But there are some equipment that say rank 0, but it's more like rank 0.5, so since I've spent 5 points already, I can't buy a 0 rank piece of equipment, because it's basically 0.5, so I can spend one of my ranks to buy 2 0 pieces of equipment. It's really weird, but yeah, just another thing. I've seen people load up on rank 0 equipment, 5 ranks of troops and then a whole lot of 0 rank equipment. You just can't do that. In my Griffin army, I've got a figure that can use auras, so I get to draw 3 aura cards, and I can choose 2, and yeah, and then the rest aren't used. So I'll do that now. Okay, so I drew Aura of Fortification, so when basically how the auras work is, this figure has the stat Aura 2, so it means basically when he's using an aura, any figure within 2 will benefit from the effects of that aura. Aura of Fortification basically kind of makes the warriors not move, but they can ignore the first wound. And then I've got Aura of Conviction, which gives all models Conviction. If they've already got Conviction, it's an addition. It goes up by 1. So all of the normal little rank and file troops that I had, they already had Conviction 1. So if I take that, they'll all be Conviction 2. And what that does is it's basically just like a +2 bonus to all your rolls. If they had Conviction 2, as long as they're within 8 squares of the leader. Although if I wanted the Conviction 2, they'd have to be within 2 squares of the leader to get that aura. And then there's Aura of Power. All that basically does is increases the range of the aura by another 1, which is alright, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Aura of Fortification and Aura of Conviction. Okay, so here we have the Scorpion. So they're I guess the bad guys in the scenario. Kind of creepy scientist guys creating monsters down in the laboratories. I forgot to mention that I'm only actually using in this little demonstration figures from the core game and the expansion. I've got a bunch of extras, but I haven't got around to painting them up or anything, and I don't get to play this game as much as I'd like. Okay, so again, it's just based off ranks. So I'll take this. I'm just going to take this big massive guy here, the Aberration. He's like 3 ranks just by himself. The Scorpion in the scenario gets 6 ranks worth of troops. Still limited to a maximum of 5 figures, but I can take 6 ranks. So I'll take the big guy with 3, and then I'll take 2 of these hybrids. So I'll get rid of that one. And so that's, what's that, 5. And these guys are worth 0. So it doesn't mean I can take all of them, so I'll just take 1. But then I'll also buy an equipment card, just for the hell of it. So I'm going to take one piece of equipment that's also rank 0. So that rank 0 piece of equipment plus this rank 0 little pest of the flesh, that will add up to the final 1 rank that brings me to 6. So yeah, Grenade of Darkness, basically a 1-use item that lets me that's one of the figures that I equip it with. Basically to deploy like a wall of darkness which will block line of sight, and I'll chuck that on this big beastie guy, since he has no range attacks. Just let him get a bit closer when he uses it. So yeah, that's force creation done. There's a couple more steps before we start. Since I have figures with mutations, that can use mutation cards, which is my hybrids. They have the... Sorry, I'm not even looking what the camera's seeing. You can't really see it because of glare, but they have the mutation ability, which lets them use mutations. So kind of like auras, I get to draw 3, and then choose 2, and discard the last one. So I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so the 3 I got were Endorphin Injector, which basically lets you ignore one of the wound penalties. I guess we'll have to get to wound penalties later. So that's kind of cool. And also, when the model's killed, it still stays in play until the end of the turn, which could be quite effective. There's also the Blood of Darkness. That one's basically lets you regen damage. You get a chance to regen damage or make a roll at the end of the turn. And what's that? Muscular Hypertrophy. Lets you. It gives you a +1 modifier on all your natural rolls. Basically +1 to hit in combat. Think of it that way. So I think I'll just take the Blood of Darkness, and we'll go with Endorphin Injector because that's easier to pronounce. So we're almost ready to go. You'll remember that I mentioned there's a shared event deck. You'll also find in the box there's 2 other decks labelled event decks, whereas this one is, the card backing shows the blue of the Griffin and the green of the Scorpion to indicate it's a shared deck. There's 2 other decks that's labelled event, it's just completely blue. This is another really weird thing in the game. It's called an event deck, but it's really like the army deck that it refers to in the game. Basically you shuffle this, and at the start of the game you draw 2. You don't get to look at them. We'll activate those later. They get activated at certain points in the game, and so I just put those off to the side. I don't get to know what they are. Opponent doesn't get to know what they are. So how it works is when the first time that we establish line of sight in the game, the 2 forces, we both draw our first army card and apply its effects immediately. And then the first time a warrior is eliminated from the game, either side, we both draw our second army card. So again, it's weird because they call them event cards, but they're different than the shared event cards. But we'll get to that in the game. So I've done that for the Griffin. I'll do the same for the Scorpion. Probably don't need to see that. The very last thing you do before basically deploying and starting the game is each player draws 4 action cards. Now, these action cards are very limited resource. You only get to draw another one each time one of your figures is killed. So, yeah, it's not exactly something to celebrate when you get to draw one. They basically have a value on it. I think it's like 1 to 4. And some of them also have an effect on them. For example, this one, what does it say? Allows you to reduce the value of your adversary's action card by 2 points. So how these work is whenever you make an attack roll, or basically roll a dice, you have the opportunity to play one of these action cards to increase the dice roll, or to increase your chance of success by the number on the dice roll, or you can play it for the actual game effect on the card. So they do all sorts of weird things, like we'll see in the game anyway. So that's a pretty shitty hand of cards, really. All just ones. So you get the chance to play one, then your opponent will get the chance to play one to hinder your dice roll, and then you'll get one last chance to play a second card if you wish. So yep, both sides get to draw 4 of those. You can kind of mulligan. You can discard those 4 cards and draw another 3. But yeah, can't be asked doing that. We'll just roll with this, and I'll draw 4 for the other. And then I'll jump onto deployment. I'll just deploy them off camera, and we'll get on to the first round.